All right, what's up, y'all? I just got back from watching the new the Chronicle movie. It was really good. It was actually better than what I thought it was gonna be. Not that I thought it was gonna be bad or anything, but I didn't really have really high expectations for the movie, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, the only negative thing that I had heard from a lot of people who had seen it before me and gave their reviews and their thoughts of the movie. The only negative thing that I had really heard was the special effects. I know folks are talking about how the special effects weren't that great, so I was kind of expecting really shitty effects. And effects, they were cool. They weren't great. They weren't like seeing the Matrix 2 for the first time or something like that. I mean, they wasn't like that phenomenal, groundbreaking visual effects, but I went into the movie understanding that the budget, or that it was a low budget movie, and I understood that, and that been hearing a lot of people not necessarily complaining about the special effects, but that was one of the things that they said was kind of not that great. So me going to a movie in that mindset, I thought the effects were good. They were a lot better than I thought they were, and there wasn't a lot of the movie that really used heavy special effects. Obviously, there's special effects going on, all the time in movies nowadays, but there wasn't a lot of scenes where they were using like a shit ton of special effects where you could obviously tell like, okay, yeah, special effects. A lot of it was more about the characters and them talking about their powers and using it, at least in the beginning, in more subtle ways, just levitating like some pieces of Lego, pieces, small stuff like that, and then eventually, like you've probably seen the previews, they fly and things like that, which is one of the scenes where it's more heavier in the the special effect department, or towards the end of the movie, which you probably seen the scene as well, where the kid's moving the cars with his mind like he's Magneto or something. That's obviously a lot of special effects. I'm sure that was a lot of special effects going on in that scene, at least I assume. But overall, basically, if you're going to the movie thinking that the special effects is the worst part, you should be satisfied, because to me it wasn't even that bad. In the rest of the movie, the acting was pretty good. The main character, and Andrew, the main character, he was a really good character. I liked how they did the whole kind of progression of him kind of becoming more and more, bad, I guess, throughout the movie. It kind of reminded me of Rise of the Apes. For anybody who's seen Rise of the Apes, no, it was not as good as Rise of the Apes, but it kind of reminded me of that, just in the sense of with the main character in Rise of the Apes. How that the chimp, starts off kind of trusting all the humans, everything's cool, and eventually gets to a point where he snaps and he has his breaking point in Rise of the Apes. It's kind of similar in that aspect in Chronicle, with the character. Everything starts off, he's not evil in the beginning. He gets bullied, kind of almost like Spider-Man ish, where Peter Parker gets bullied by kids at school, but in this movie, the main character in Chronicle, his dad's like a drunk. So he abuses him. His mom is dying. I forget what kind of disease she had, but she had trouble breathing. So he's had a lot of his life, just wasn't really that great. He didn't really have a lot of friends. His cousin, he would drive him to and from school, but they weren't really that close anymore. Didn't really have a lot of other friends, or didn't have a girlfriend, nothing like that. And got picked on a lot. And he was a good kid. He kept to himself. He didn't do anything to deserve anything. So you kind of root for him. Kind of how in Rise of the Apes you're rooting for the chimps, even though it's kind of like, wait a minute, why am I rooting for these chimpanzees? I should be rooting for the humans. And by the end of the movie, it's kind of like you're still kind of rooting for him, but it's kind of, wait a minute, he's kind of evil. Like, should I be really rooting for him? But you see kind of where he came from being bullied and all this nonsense for no reason. So it's kind of like you understand why he becomes what he becomes in this movie. So it's a good origin movie. Excuse me. Sorry. It's a good movie in that aspect for kind of showing how this all starts out with one character becoming more good, which is his cousin Matt, and then the main character kind of becoming more evil, and then Steve, who's the black character, kind of, I would say he was kind of more in the middle. and things like that. It was really cool how they showed their powers. It was kind of more realistic, not in the special effects, but far as like what you would do if you got powers like right now. Like yeah, eventually you might become like Spider-Man or something like that and become a good guy or become a a super villain, eventually. But the day or even a few days after you get these telekinetic powers or whatever kind of powers, you're probably not going to be like, okay, time for me to put on a cape and say the word. You're probably like, wait a minute. I'm gonna go to Walmart and fuck with some people, or go to Dollar General or something, which is what they did, well, when the first thing you see with them using their powers, which you've probably seen this also in it's funny, a lot of the main scenes you've probably seen in previews, but it's just like clips of it, so you don't get to see the whole thing in order. So it's not one of those movies where they show you everything in the previews, and you're like, oh man, I've already seen all this stuff, and I kind of already knew what was going to happen, even though. Yeah, I mean, it is predictable. I shouldn't say that you won't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's a pretty mainstream kind of plot. It's just cool to kind of see how they did it, because I feel they did it in more of a realistic way. Like I say, it's not like Spider-Man, which I love Spider-Man, and those movies to me make more sense, to do what they did. Plus they're following a comic book story, so they kind of have to, they're playing off of that, where this is an original story. At least to my knowledge, Chronicle is original story. I don't know, maybe there might have been a book on this or something like that. I don't know, but I thought it was kind of cool because you got these high school, seniors. They get these powers. They, they kind of practice a little bit. They throw baseballs at each other and shit, try to stop it in midair. And it's the point like, we're gonna go to the store. We're gonna mess them. We're gonna mess with some people. Not necessarily try to kill them or anything. But we're gonna fuck with some people. It's like we're gonna move people's shopping carts around. Just there's a little dumb shit like that. Like stuff that you probably would do if you had telekinetic powers. You probably would do some of these things. And over time, you might decide, hey, maybe I should go to some third world countries and help some people. Whatever. So I thought that was a cool approach to the whole superhero gaining superpowers story. I don't want to spoil too much, but like I said, if you've been keeping up on the trailers, you've pretty much seen the main premises of the story. They go in a cave, they touch this thing, I'll just say, get powers, they mess with people. Andrew gets a little crazy, gets a little nutty, and finally he has that breaking point, and then shit basically hits the fan. It's a simple story like that, but it did remind me a lot of like X-Men, First Class, and Rise of the Apes. Once again, I'm not saying that Chronicle was better than those movies. It's just aspects kind of reminded me of those movies when it came to the character. Like Andrew reminded me a lot of Magneto. Outside of the fact that he can move shit, like there's parts obviously where he's moving cars and stuff like that, things that Magneto can do as well. But just kind of how if you push him too, like Magneto, if you push him too far, he's gonna fuck you up. It's kind of the same thing with this Andrew kid. He'll tell you, like, get out of my way. Like, I'm stronger than you. Get out of my way. And if you don't get out of his way, towards the end of the movie, he's going to fuck you up. That's just kind of like how his character, is in this movie. I thought that was pretty cool. And, it kind of reminded me also of Magneto, like people that watched X-Men First Class, Magneto when he gets pissed and he's using his, magnetic powers, you kind of hear that like whoom noise, and shit. And, you're like, oh shit, here we go. Something's about to happen. It's kind of like that with Andrew, he'll get pissed and like shit will kind of start shaking or, it'll be like whoom kind of noise. You know what I'm talking about. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I like how for this being a found film movie, it wasn't necessarily like Blair Witch Project or Cloverfield, something like that, where something would happen and they're like, oh shit, we gotta run, time to run, and the camera's jumping around all crazy like this and shit, and you're getting sick, and you're like, what the fuck? Like there's a few scenes like that, but for the most part, the camera's more, it kind of flows more. Even when there's parts where they're holding it, where they got regular characters. Like, there's this girl that Matt, the main character's cousin, is trying to kind of get with, and they kind of become boyfriend and girlfriend towards the end of the movie, but he's kind of, hitting on her throughout the movie. And she has like this blog website, and she records videos and puts up on her blog. And, there's times where the camera will cut to her and she would be standing there because she's, in the middle of a conversation. So it makes sense. So she'll be standing there still holding the camera at, whoever's talking to her. And there might be other parts where the main character, he'll learn how to use his telekinesis to levitate the camera. So he'll float it around. It'll be kind of like in a bird's eye view. So it'll be say it's like the three main characters all talking to each other about their powers, and they're like, hey man, we need to set up some some ground rules or whatever. I'm just throwing out shit. We need to set up some ground rules and blah blah blah, which they do talk about that in the movie. And he'll look at the camera and he'll kind of like float it up above him and have it kind of like in a bird's eye view looking over the three characters, or he'll be walking and the camera will be behind him kind of floating next to him and shit. And so it was real cool how they did the whole found film thing. I like how they incorporated their powers with the found film. Now, the one thing I will say was kind of like cheesy or kind of like what the fuck. It wasn't even the effects. Like I said, to me, those were fine, especially for the budget that they had. I thought the effects were fine. It was the fact that, which they even kind of made fun of themselves for this, but the fact that they be doing all this shit, like moving cars and throwing people and all this shit, and it's like nobody like saw them until the end. Actually, till the climax of the movie. But for the most part, they're doing all these pranks. They're just using their powers and shit. And there'll be parts where they'll be out in the middle of nowhere, in the outskirts of the town. Which, okay, you're in the outskirts of the town. Okay, fine, that makes sense. But there's other parts where they're like in town doing stuff, and like there's like no witnesses. Like, I live in a small town. If I went outside right now and levitated a fucking car or something, somebody's going to see. Somebody's either going to walk by or jog by or be in their car or something, or looking out their window. Somebody's going to see this. Like, there's no way like they're doing all this shit and it's like they don't really get exposed until the climax of the story. But like I said, they even kind of made fun of themselves for this after they go to like the little Dollar General store and they're fucking around and stuff, and they leave and they're in the car laughing like, oh man, I can't believe nobody saw. I can't believe nobody saw that was us. They did kind of make fun of themselves, but it was just weird that like there'd be some scenes here and there where they'd be doing stuff in the middle of the street, and like you wouldn't even hear anybody in the background like, oh my god, or you wouldn't see anybody like caught on the camera kind of like stopping and looking like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? So that was kind of like, but it wasn't like something that would break the movie, like, oh my god, I'm leaving. But if you really kind of think about it, it was just kind of like, what the hell. Which I will give them credit for me saying that, which sounds weird, but the reason why I give them credit for me complaining about that is, for me personally, I was into the movie and I kind of got into the fact that like it felt kind of realistic far as what you would do if you had powers, and I was getting into the movie, so I paid attention to things like that, where it was a movie with a story and the characters were all kind of whatever, and I just didn't care. I probably wouldn't have noticed it, I probably wouldn't have complained about it, but it did slightly stick out is because everything else to me made sense in this kind of science fiction type of movie. But that's probably really the only negative I can say, is the fact that like nobody really like saw them do this. Maybe I need to rewatch it, but like I didn't notice that, but until the end of the movie, like I said. But they did kind of like make fun of themselves about it, so it's all good. But yeah, to me, special effects was good. The acting overall was pretty good. Nobody was like some standout phenomenal actor, but everybody I say was pretty much on par with each other. It wasn't like Rise of the Apes where you had Draco Malfoy. I don't know what his actual name is, but the guy that played Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter's and Rise of the Apes, and like you could tell his acting wasn't as good compared to pretty much everybody else's acting, so he kind of stuck out. Whereas in Harry Potter, like he seemed like he played his role to me very good as Draco and Harry Potter, but everybody's acting level, at least the students, was all pretty much on par, so it didn't make sense. And it's kind of the same thing in this movie. Everybody's acting was on par, and it really didn't have that many characters. It really was a movie about those three characters that get these powers. And then I'll say like there's the father, there's a girlfriend, and there's a girl who becomes one of the boy's girlfriend, stuff like that. Wasn't like a huge role, but she's in the movie kind of more as like another camera. She was a cool character. The kid Matt and I forget the girl's name is, so I'll just call her the girlfriend, but they kind of go back and forth like flirting and shit. It was cool. Just show that they are these teenage, young adults, seniors in high school and everything like that, and they're doing, high school shit. They're going to parties and they're drinking and trying to get lit, things that guys try to do, but they just happen to have these powers. So it was cool, But I definitely recommend it. I will say it is short, But the thing is, it really didn't feel that short. The movie, I think, was like an hour and like 15 minutes. Like, it was actually like pretty short compared to most. Like, most movies are around like hour 45, 2 hours, maybe hour and a half for the shortest. It was like, I want to say it was like a 74-minute movie, which is like an hour and 14 minutes or whatever. But then you got to add in credits and shit. So really, it was like an hour movie. Uh, don't call me on that. I could be wrong about the amount of minutes. I might need to double check on that, but I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, you guys can look up, go on Google, look up the amount of time the movie is. But the way it was paced, it doesn't feel. It feels like it was like an hour 45-minute movie. Like, it felt like the amount of time that they had was enough. It didn't feel like things were rushed. It didn't feel like they were trying to drag shit on and make the movie longer. It felt right. And because it was found film, the parts where they would cut from maybe like one day to the next day, or from one area to the next, didn't feel rushed, or didn't feel out of place, because it is found film, so it makes sense in that genre anyway. And overall, it was a cool movie. It was cool. They could fly the movie and shit. They learn how to fly. A lot of stuff that you probably already know. I'll probably put spoilers in the title just in case people might not will know these things. So I will put spoilers in the title so you guys know. But yeah, I definitely recommend, if you like these kind of beginning superhero type of movies and all the type of stuff, I thought was really cool. The way that they ended it, I feel that they should just leave it with this movie, but I can see them making more, and there is potential for them to make more and have it make sense. But at the same time, the way they ended it, it seemed that they probably should leave it alone, just because of the way things were and what happened to certain characters and things like that in the movie. They probably should leave it alone, but they could do certain things to make a sequel, and it could maybe make sense. But overall, great movie. Really, really cool. Like I said, if you liked X-Men First Class, you like those kind of movies showing characters, progressing, and showing different sides of characters, or even TV shows like Walking Dead, like with what's his name, the dude who like shaved his head in Walking Dead, like we see his character he's becoming more of the bad guy. So like shit like that. If you like that type of shit, you'll like this movie. Now, it's not as good as those movies that I mentioned, but it's in that same type of feel, where you have a character that starts off as kind of like the Peter Parker character. He gets bullied, but instead of Peter Parker, who becomes a good guy, the main character pretty much is like, what, fuck you in the back, fuck everybody, like, I'm gonna do what the fuck I want to do because I have these powers and no one can really stop me. So it was cool. Definitely recommend it. I actually might see it again. Might wait for it to go out, come on video, because it wasn't really that long. But pacing was great. Acting was, it was good. It made sense for, the characters that were in the movie and everything. It was. I definitely. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it, I say like an 8.5, maybe a 9 out of 10. Like it was a really good movie. If you're in these type of movies, it was definitely cool. So I definitely recommend it. I guess right now it's like the #1 movie or something, which that's pretty cool. I hear that these guys are making straight bank on this movie right now because it was a low budget film, and so there's been making straight bank. So my throat's kind of dry, so I need to drink some like Sprite or something. My throat's kind of like dry. Was drinking last night, so I got cotton mouth and shit. You guys know how that goes. But sorry if I was talking too fast. Let me know if there's anything that I said that you couldn't understand. I know I get a talking fast and get a stuttering and shit, but it's something that I said that you didn't understand. Let me know in the comments. I apologize if I was talking too fast. I'll try and slow down. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the movie. This video's probably been going on for way too long, so I tend to ramble. But yeah, I recommend it. Go check it out if you like this type of films. And if you have seen it, let me know what you guys think on it. If you liked it, if you hated it, and your reasons why for either. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.